Hello, I'm Mario Toneguzzi with Edmonton's podcast, brought to you by Canada's Podcast Network. Joining me today is Tanya Zurock, who is founder of Wild Prairie Soap Company. Thanks for joining us today, Tanya.
Thank you for having me.
Well, let's talk about the company. Tell me, first of all, a little bit about what you guys do.
Sure. So Wild Prairie is a manufacturer of high quality natural plant-based soap and body care products that we manufacture all by hand in our factory here in Edmonton.
And when did you start?
Well, it's been a while. I started the company sort of by accident. I was a teacher at the time, and I was starting to have a family. And my oldest daughter, who was very young at the time, she had quite dry and sensitive skin. So this was 25 years ago that I first sort of delved into this idea of natural soap. So yeah, our company is about 23 years old now and going strong, and it all came out of sort of a need for a solution for my child.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know because some of my children are like that as well. Is it partially because of the climate here and the dry climate in Alberta that led to the dry skin for your daughter?
Yeah, I think definitely the dryness we experience, especially during the winter, it definitely exasperates people who have skin issues like eczema or dermatitis.
Yeah.
But what I found out really early on and realized is that a lot of people are dry simply because of the products they're using on their skin. So if you're using anything that's detergent based, which, most commercially manufactured body washes would be made with a detergent. What that does is it continually strips away the natural oils that your skin is producing to keep it not being dry. So we cause a lot of our own problems. And then our dryness in the winter just seems to make that even worse.
Yeah. So what goes into these soaps?
So again, they're all plant-based. We use 50% olive oil to make them, and our olive oil is all imported from Spain or Italy, the two largest producers. We use coconut oil and sustainable palm oil. Palm oil gets a bad rap often, but our palm oil comes from certified producers. So yeah, it's all plant-based. It's called cold process soap making, which just means we don't add any heat when we're making the soap. And we use sodium hydroxide. And when you combine those two, when you combine the fats and you combine the sodium hydroxide, it creates what we call soap.
Okay, and where is this the soaps sold?
So right from the beginning, when we first started selling it, we sell into retail. So anything from gift and garden centers to boutiques, salons, spas, grocery, specialty grocery, tourism, so all across Canada. And we also have a distributor that we signed with in 2019, and we have distribution throughout Japan. And we just signed a newer agreement with a distributor in Korea, and that is a brand new launch for us that happened this spring. So,
oh, cool.
Yeah.
Do you see it growing in terms of the distribution of it?
Yeah, I mean, the export has really caused a great deal of growth for our company, which is really fantastic. It's, allowed us to sort of expand our knowledge and interest in like what other cultures and countries like to use on their skin, which of course, we're all human beings. So our skin is all the same. So it translates really well to go into a new market. And, in Canada, we have just such a great loyal base of customers that has really helped us build, the solid sort of usual regular part of our revenue and our company. So yeah, the last few years have been a definite scale up in production and sales.
So tell me just a little bit about the customers themselves. Have you been able to kind of understand more who your customer is, who your typical customer is?
Yeah, I would say if I had to describe our typical customer, it is a woman. she definitely has an interest in choosing products that she feels she can trust. She definitely wants to share those with her family, especially if she has children. She usually would read a label, so is a much more in tune and much more educated about what product ingredients that she allows herself to use or wants to use. And then we also have a great supportive male fan base who, it's really interesting. We find men will be so expressive about their love for our products. Like they will be like, I could never go back to anything else. So it is a mix, but definitely it's female driven.
Okay, super. And can you describe for me, I guess, how do these, I don't know, for lack of a better word, the recipes come into play and in the creation of the soaps and the different kind of soaps?
Yeah, basically, the recipe, the sort of base recipe for most of our bars is the one that I created and formulated, back in 1999. But the way you alter each bar of soap is the different additives. So the different essential oils you might use for different skin conditions. If you wanted it to be exfoliating, you might add something like a clay or oatmeal. So you basically have a base recipe, and then from there you can add a lot of different ingredients and formulate it to suit different needs and different skin types.
Okay, so I'm just curious, on a yearly basis, how many soaps would you make roughly?
Wow. I think in 2021, we probably made 125,000 bars of soap as a guess. And we expect with this new expansion into Korea to very likely double that in a very short time. So,
Okay, can you describe a little bit for me the manufacturing place where this stuff is made?
sure. So our facility is 4,400 square feet. We have a dedicated soap making area where we have it's basically a very large stainless steel vat. We melt our oils and put them in there, put the sodium hydroxide solution in, and it's mixed in that. And then we pour them into our mold system. And one of the greatest things about our soap, one of the defining factors is I think I've only ever seen our soap be the shape, but an oval bar. And oval is a very ergonomic shape for the hand. So it's very easy to wash with. It's very easy to use on your body. You're not wearing off edges and corners. So it goes into our oval molds and it goes in as a liquid at the point we call trace. So trace is when soap starts the molecules of the sodium hydroxide and the fat start to combine. And that chemical reaction, once it starts, we call that trace. And at that point we pour it into our molds. And the chemical reaction continues. We insulate the molds, and the chemical reaction also creates heat. So when our soap is sitting in our molds and it's insulated, you can just feel the heat that it's generating. But then as it cools, it hardens. And so once it's hard, we extract they basically come out in logs. We extract each log and then they're cut. The cutting leaves a bit of a rough edge, so we hand clean all of that edging off, and then we rack them and we cure them for 2 weeks, and that just helps the additional water to evaporate to make the bar harder, which in turn makes it last longer. So once they've cured for 2 weeks, then we sell them.
So I'm curious, from start to finish, how long does it take to make a bar of soap?
Start to finish is about 2.5 hours. Yeah.
Oh, okay then.
And some of that's just wait time with different, you have to get your temperatures exact. You have to match temperature to temperature.
Yeah.
So some of that's wait time, but with the extraction and the cutting, it's about 2.5 hours. And we would make a batch size of about 600. Well, it's a 600 bar batch. And then we make up to 4 of those a day. So up to 2,400 bars in a day.
So when you started this years ago, in your wildest dreams, did you ever think you'd be where you are today?
No, not at all. I mean, I'm certainly grateful and happy that it turned out this way. I never expected to be an entrepreneur, even though I came from two entrepreneurs or
Hmm.
self-employed people. But I love it. It was my passion from very early on. And not having gone to business school or having had, that formal education, it's been really fulfilling to be able to learn and grow. And, I'm still learning and growing. The export has certainly, made me feel like a beginner again. I feel like I completely understand how to manufacture and promote and sell in Canada, but that export piece was a brand new learning curve, which is awesome. You always want to be learning and growing and changing. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So I'm assuming that your parents were both entrepreneurs, and what did they do?
Oh my God. Well, my dad was a self-employed truck driver. He worked in the oil and gas industry. And my mom was seriously just a serial entrepreneur. She started, on our farm. She started an egg business. So chickens and eggs. So
Yeah.
as a kid, I was out there cleaning pens, collecting eggs, doing chores, and it was in Alberta's, pretty far north. So middle of the winter, if my dad wasn't home, my sister and I would have to go out, at 6:30 in the morning and do the chores, and it would be like pitch dark and
Yeah.
minus 30 or 40. But my sister and I both laugh a lot about the resiliency and sort of the competency it gave us as a young age. But then she gave that up and moved into things like she opened a clothing store, she opened a travel agency. So yeah, she did a lot of things.
What do you think you learned by growing up in the farm that I guess has helped you in your journey as a business person?
Well, the first thing I would say is definitely resiliency, because farm life is often, has its ups and downs, and you learn to provide for yourself in many ways. It gives you a connection to the earth that I think you don't necessarily have if you grow up in an urban environment. You see things being grown, you care for the animals, you see the process, you just really get connected, I think, when you grow up on a farm and have that kind of lifestyle.
Yeah. What's been as an entrepreneur, what has been the thing that you like the most about being an entrepreneur?
Oh, there's quite a few, but I would say probably the biggest thing I like about it is making my own decisions and having that freedom to, I mean, guided freedom. It's not like you're just free to do anything you
Yeah.
want. It has to make sense, and it has to, be as smart of a decision as you can make. But, you have that ability to change when you want to change, to create when you want to create, to step back when you want to step back.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I would say the freedom and the creativity that you can bring to your work, for
Okay.
sure.
Well, on the flip side, what don't you like about being an entrepreneur?
Well, I don't like a lot of the sort of admin work that, still some of it, a lot of it still falls to me. So I'm not a huge fan of that kind of thing. Sometimes the pressure of having a team and a staff and managing people all the time can be, an added stress that isn't always easy. I mean, we have a wonderful team right now. We probably have the best team we've ever had. In fact, we definitely have the best team we've ever had. But certainly over the last 20 some years, there's been times when, there's issues you have to deal with people that you just don't want to, but you have to. So
Yeah.
that can be hard, and then the the instability sometimes of being an entrepreneur can be tough, you know. Other people get a regular paycheck, it's guaranteed unless they get laid off or fired. But as an entrepreneur, you know, everybody's sort of depending on your guidance, your direction. And I love that, but the pressure from that can sometimes be something you have to learn to manage and deal with in a smart way.
What advice would you give people if they came to you asking for advice about becoming an entrepreneur?
I think it has to really be something you're passionate about. It's not even that, like I am very passionate about soap. Nobody loves soap more than I do. So that doesn't hurt. And I think you can be a serial entrepreneur and not love necessarily the product itself, but the process. You have to love that. You have to love either the creativity of it or the sales of it.
Yeah.
You probably should also love the product for sure. I think you can't sell things well unless you love them. And I think early on, it's important to get the kind of guidance and mentorship that you might need. You know, I feel like there are mistakes I made early on that had I found the right people to help me, I wouldn't have made those mistakes.
Yeah.
So yeah, mentorship is definitely something that's very important, and expertise. Those are two really, really critical things, I think, if you're going to start out and do something.
So on your entrepreneurial journey, I'm just curious, were there any, I don't know, examples of other businesses that you looked at for guidance, or any books that were helpful along the way?
Yeah. Oh, I read a really great book. I'm going to totally forget the name of it right now. I read it at a really critical point where I was really a really small company, and I knew I didn't want to be the maker of my product forever. You know, that's not really a sustainable growth model. So I read this book, and it was about that, you know, being the maker or being the entrepreneur. And you often start as the maker of the widget. But to grow your business, you have to become the true entrepreneur. And that becoming the true entrepreneur is going to get you the things that you're probably looking for in your life as an entrepreneur, which is the ability to make the decisions and the ability to have some freedom. And, you know, you can still maintain that creativity, but yet grow your business and not be the maker.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because I do recall a conversation I had years ago with a friend of mine who's an artist. And he told me basically that, you know, he had two jobs, right? And the first job was being an artist and doing that craft. But then the second job was the business side of things, right? And I think a lot of people don't understand that, and just kind of reminded me when you said, you know, the people making the widgets. There's really two aspects of being an entrepreneur, right?
For sure. Yeah. And it's whether you're going to focus on working in the business or working on the business. So when I made that switch to working on the business, I think, you know, a lot changed for me. A lot.
So something just popped in my head here. So do you only make bar soap? You don't make liquid?
We do actually make a liquid hand and body wash.
Okay.
And we do it right from scratch. And it's naturally based, so there's no detergents and no drying elements to it. So yeah, we do. Yeah.
Okay, super. So, you know, obviously being an entrepreneur, I think the common thread throughout entrepreneurship is that it's 24/7 job in many ways. Do you feel that you have some work-life balance in your life?
I try to. I mean, there's certain times of the year where that's a little bit easier. You know, certainly fall and winter, leading up to the holidays is not the time where you're going to have, you know, definitely never going to Mexico in November. So, but yeah, I try to scratch out times when, you know, I'll see a window where I can take some time off, or if I'm feeling really burnt out. Because I think as an entrepreneur, it's really easy to work 24/7.
Yeah.
You know, I often will do some work at night, and I rarely have ever felt resentful about that, because it's something I want to do. But you can get into a cycle where you're doing that a bit too much. And so it is,
Yeah.
it is pretty important to take that time, and it helps when you have a team you can trust and depend on to support you in that. And also recognizing that in your team, you need to take some time off, I think, because
Sure.
you've been, working so hard for us. And so I kind of encourage that both with my team, and I try to do that with myself as well.
Okay, super. So what would you say some of your interests or passions are beyond the work and the business?
I love plants and gardening, so I get very excited when spring comes, because I can get out in my yard and dig in the dirt and plant my flowers and some vegetables. So yeah, big interest there. I love to travel, and that's worked really well in terms of you know, goes hand in hand a bit with our export work. I've added some travel to Asia in order to meet distributors and go
Hmm.
to the locations where our products are sold. So,
Uh,
but other than that, I like to travel just for pleasure as well. So I love a good beach. I love great architecture. I love, seeing old things, old cities. Europe is amazing. So yeah, I love to travel. I love to spend time with my kids, who are grown up now, but they're always hanging around. Yeah, so I would say those are probably my top interests.
all right, super. Well, thanks very much, Tanya, for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.
All right, super. That was Tanya Zurock, who is founder of Wild Prairie Soap Company in Edmonton. I'm Mario Tonaguzzi with Edmonton's podcast on Canada's Podcast Network. Thanks for joining us today.